today's little shop project is going to be these little parts we made, these license plate backers, made out of carbon fiber material that we made on a previous video. We cut these out and cut them to shape on yesterday's video, and today we want to put the finish on them. Now, it sounds like that would be super easy, and you just go out and get some 2-part urethane. It's anything but that, and I'm going to try to share the tips and the things I've learned over many years of making carbon fiber parts. Now, this is the latest parts that we made for the MT-09, and these were made on a previous video, I think about a week or two ago. And there's several steps on this that if you're new to carbon fiber work, there's probably some tips you can pick up on. Now, the nice thing about doing any carbon fiber work is it's really not that difficult, but it's always labor intensive. Whether you make it from a mold or however you decide you're going to do it. In our case, we did it with 2 sheets of glass, but it's always the finishing of it that's the difficult part to get right, and that's what we're going to try to share. Now, the carbon fiber parts that I made, pretty much every bike here has some custom one-of-a-kind parts that I made. They're really not that difficult to make, but there are definitely some do's and don'ts and little tips. And the biggest one is when you go to finish them, whether you paint them, it really doesn't matter, or if you clear coat them, which is what we're going to do today. There's always some tricks. Now, when I made this part, I had a mold. It was actually a rubber mold. So the parts release from a rubber mold a little bit different. They release and they don't have a coating of release agent. But when I made this part, of course, it's coated with release agent, and you've got to get that release agent off and scuff it before you can put any clear coat on it. And we're going to try to show that today in the shop in real time. Now, what we did with this part, we made a sheet of carbon fiber, and thank you Dave Midgley and Dick Hewitt who donated the material to this project. If you notice, there's little specks, and I don't know if I can show this, there's always little imperfections, dust, whatever. So the first part on anything is we want to clean off any of the release agent, and we'll do that with chemicals. And then or simple green is a good solution too. The next step is to get this totally flat, scuffed and sanded totally flat. Now, no good shop day ever starts without a good cup of coffee. And we're checking out my tomato production from the garden this morning. Oh boy, we got some goodies there. And we pretty much get tomatoes out of the garden every morning, even this time of year. They're still going. And as you can imagine, my passion is carbon fiber work. Karen's passion is cooking. Now, the first and most important thing to understand about carbon fiber, or if you're doing paint that's 10 years old, or if you're doing raw metal or plastic, the stuff has to be silicone-free, grease-free, no matter what you do. Now, this is a good thing because these are small parts. You can do this, and I wanted to show this trick using simple green. Doesn't get a lot easier than this. And you don't even use a lot of the simple green because you can put it right back in the jug when you're done. We have mold release agent of some kind and amount on there. Now, I'm going to be having a cup of coffee, and while I'm sitting around having my coffee and talking to Karen about her cooking adventures, these parts can be soaking. And the longer you let them soak, the better. There's no limit to if you let them sit overnight, it'd even be good. Because getting rid of that mold release agent before we sand. If you sand over the silicone, it drives the silicone on a molecular level down into the part, and you never get rid of the fish eyes. As it is, getting rid of the fish eyes is a really, really big job. It's really not as easy as you think it is. But we're going to give this a try. And there are other tricks that I want to share on this. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've done it with every kind of product from high heat epoxy to, this is West Systems resin. And I've learned some things that I think if I pass them on to you, they'll be a big benefit if you go to do a part like this yourself. Another way you could do this, and if you do it outside, is fill up a little tub with prep oil like that. Problem is the prep oil evaporates very quickly and you lose it. Simple green doesn't. So these parts have been sitting a few minutes, and I can just really carefully wipe off as much of this as I can. And when I get these parts all nice and clean, the next step is going to be get them sanded. And you can just put back all of the simple green you didn't use, and we're ready to go to the next step. we're going to be sanding with some 600 Rhino Wet. 600 Rhino Wet. Now in this case, we're just going to be sanding, and it really wouldn't matter even if you used 400, 320, it wouldn't matter. We want to scuff the part. I put a little bit of Dawn in some hot soapy water. Hot water seems to work a little bit better. I want to get all the edges radiused. I've already roughened them out, but I want to get everything super, super smooth, and you can see how quick that it picks up the carbon. And as soon as I have this totally flat, I only need to do to one side. The other side is going to be basically a fender. And I'm going to put all my time into the outside of the part and the part that's not going to be covered by the license plate. Now the back, the back part that you're really not going to see, there's some imperfections in the carbon. I don't care. It's going to be a fender. But I want to roughen it up so that the clear coat that I'm going to put on here at least sticks. 100 grit paper is good enough for this. Just want to roughen it up. Okay, the whole part is sanded now. We're ready to do the other part, but looking at this, I think what we have done is stack the deck that will have a minimum or no fish eyes. Now, if we do have a fish eyes in the first coat only, I will wipe it completely off right away, then wipe that surface with acetone, another clean paper towel, and immediately put another coat of clear on there. If I only have 1 or 2 fish eyes, I'm not going to let it bother me. Okay, the final thing is just to wipe the parts down with prep oil. And we will be ready to paint momentarily. It looks like we actually are going to have a good day to paint. Something we always enjoy. Now the good news today is it doesn't look like there's any chance it's going to rain, so for sure we'll be able to get the first coats of clear on this, and maybe all of clear. I don't know how the day's going to play out, but for sure, if you understand that the prepping of the part, getting rid of whatever the release agent is and scuffing it so it's rough, 600, 400, even if you're going to be aggressive about it, you know, even rougher sandpaper. Because what's going to happen if you don't get a bond to that at some point in the future, what typically happens is the paint will come off. The urethane, the 2-part urethane will come off like saran wrap. It's called saran wrapping. And in the industry of windy. And I've had saran wrapping, so ask me how I know. The reason I know this stuff is I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And I was doing this when it wasn't commonly available to be able to pick up the information off YouTube. You had to really, really bend arms to try to find out some of these things. And some of the things you learn the hard way, you just stumble upon them, like that wiping the part off. And as crude as that sounds, in the very end, it's the nuclear option. Or else you're going to just be sanding till the cows come home on fish eyes. Anyway, we're going to finish prepping up these 2 parts. I don't want to waste the day because it's a day I'll be able to get some paint done. And this is the clear that we're going to use, the Gavco 7701 and 7754 fast hardener. If this is unavailable, of course 5-star is always our backup. Okay, we're ready to see if it's our lucky day. Any material, let you mix hardener and material together, it's a really, really good idea to wear a good quality mask. And I got 2 full coats on this. And once that first coat dries, we'll see if we have any really fisheye issues to deal with, and if we do, we know what to do. It's a good idea to give it at least 20 minutes to a half hour between coats if you do multiple coating. And I use about 40 pounds of air pressure on this material, and it is a little chilly out there today. It's probably 55, 60 degrees early in the morning. And it's a Harbor Freight gun and compressor. Very inexpensive material. And after 2 coats, it looks like it maybe ran down okay. Not sure. But since we're going to wet sand it anyway, even if we have 1 or 2 fish eyes or a few, we just don't want to have the whole thing fish eyes. From this point on is to put this aside to dry for a few days. And I'm not sure we're going to have the heat on it in the next couple days, but if we did, I'd put it up by a heating vent. 2 or 3 days from now, we'll sand this out. It's got plenty of clear on it. I wound up putting 3 full coats on it. It'll wet sand out any little fish eyes that are still in there. It wasn't terrible, and we didn't have to go nuclear on it, but once it's, and that'll probably be 2 or 3 days from now, and we'll get it sanded out and buffed, of course. So as always, I want to thank the healthcare workers for keeping us alive, keeping us busy in the shop, keeping us out riding. The leaves are falling everywhere. I got raking to do within raking, but I'm glad these parts will be drying while I'm raking. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Now, we do try to post up a new video every day, almost every day. What's going to happen now with these parts is they have to sit, and letting them sit at least 2 or 3 days, even longer, possibly up by a heating vent will help. You want that paint to be fully cured before you do the next step. Now, the next step on this is going to be to wet sand the parts, put on another coat of clear, a final coat, or if this clear dries out nice and flat without any fish eyes, we probably sand it and buff it. But that's going to, with that decision is going to have to be made in the next couple days. So I hope you did enjoy the video. I enjoy making them, and most of all, thanks for watching.